I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet here with the Dude and Golan. I just want to give everybody a warning. Right now, Israel's at war, and there's a reason they call it war. And their sole mission right now is to rescue the hostages and eradicate Hamas. That's radical Islam. That's people who believe that Americans and Jews, Christians all over the world are infidels and deserve to be killed. That indoctrination has spread into the United States of America. So when you look across college campuses and you see the indoctrination they are spewing out, it's no different than the indoctrination and the radicalization of their Muslim, at this point, brotherhood. So the infidels there want us dead, and the infidels here want us dead, okay? Because we are not able to share a platform with them. That is their sole ideology and belief system. Go on.
That is correct. And I think it's important to note that you're going to see a lot of video, and the video coming out of Gaza, especially Gaza City right now, this has been prepared for a very long time. Israel has been warning every civilian in the area for months, not hours, not days, and even hours and days would be more than most militaries do. But they've been giving them this warning for months with leaflets, with phone calls, with text messages, with airdrop maps. They literally designed technology that allows them to call en masse people in areas of Gaza City and text people en masse in areas of Gaza City to let them know when they're coming, where they're going to be coming, where the safe corridors are going to be, which they facilitate, by the way, with their own bodies. I'm talking about Israeli children, the people that are actually soldiers on the ground. There are video that you can find if you know where to look, watching the Israeli soldiers literally protecting the Palestinians as they're moving them down safe corridors. And all of the people that are left over are other people who have decided, because they want to be martyrs, to stay behind, to stay exactly where they know a bomb is going to fall, or have been forced to do so by terrorists, or are terrorists themselves. And it's the equivalent of knowing that they are going to bring down a building in Vegas, so you go up to the third floor. The propaganda is the weapon here. It is actually the number one weapon being used. Remembering that up until now, Hamas has hid in hospitals, fired from schools, filmed the aftermath when Israel strikes back, and used the aftermath film, controlling those images, to drive your outrage. So if you see smoke, recognize that there might be fire. And if you see dead bodies, recognize that they might have been placed there. It's not that you shouldn't believe your eyes. It's that you don't believe everything you hear about Israel at war because of the propaganda swamp we live in currently.
Well said.
Look,
And men, I just want to
yeah.
add this, because Hamas came out, and this is in their own words, where they said they're going to use the hostages as shields. And even when President Trump heard this, he was taken aback by those comments, because even he couldn't believe their brazenness to come out and say, if you come in here, we're going to be using whoever's left as a hostage as a shield. So this is what they're saying. This isn't what, some crazy Zionistic, Kabbalistic elders of Zion state, this isn't like some crazy person state. Well, the elders of Zion are crazy, but this is from their own mouth.
Yeah, as Golan just said, the Israelis have issued multiple evacuation orders. They've stated clearly that they're going to go into Gaza City for the last, I think it's a month now. The hostages are being held in Gaza City, according to Hamas, and they're not going to let them go because they want to use them as human shields. And they're also not allowing the residents to flee. And even though they're preventing the residents from fleeing, something to the tune of 1 million have gotten out of there already. So you're seeing massive evacuation corridors. You're going to hear people on CNN and BBC talk about the amount of times these people have been displaced. And they'll also say things like there is no safe place in Gaza. Or they will talk about a safe zone that Israel said where people should go. And then Israel blows up a building or a tent in that zone. So let's just be clear about all this stuff. One is there is no safe zone because it's a war zone. Number two, when Israel declares an evacuation zone, go to this location, that does not give immunity to the terrorists who go there and fire rockets out of their tents. We've seen countless videos of that. So when you fire rockets out of a tent, it's no longer a safe zone. And the Israeli government should come out and say, look, these are safe zones until we discover a Hamas or an Islamic Jihad or some other jihadi firing on us from those zones, and then it's no longer a safe zone. That's the way it works. As far as, what you're going to see a lot of death and carnage. That is war. Hopefully the civilians get out of there, and hopefully the Israelis could rescue the hostages, and hopefully they get to kill the rest of Hamas and end this war. There is something interesting to note is, what Judah was talking about, Israel fighting the Islamic jihadi lunatics. They view us all as infidels, all of us that are non-extremist Muslims. So they even,
Non-believers.
I have a friend. He's a Israeli Arab. He identified as Palestinian. I've asked him that many times. How do you identify as Palestinian? Like, where'd you get that? Your great grandfather wasn't Palestinian. He was Jordanian. Anyway, he goes, and as soon as October 7th broke out, I messaged him. I said, hey, what is going on here? I see them killing Muslims. Would they kill you too? And he goes, yeah. They think that we're all infidels because we happen to live in Israel. Even though he was, advocating on their behalf, not on Hamas's behalf, but on, the Palestinian cause. And he identified it really strongly, identified with it. He had to say, they would kill me too. Our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has an Arabic tattoo on his bicep.
You just wanted to show your bicep.
And so it's like right there, and it says in Arabic, infidel, which is so good. He was out there fighting the Islamic extremists, the terrorists, and he had that tattoo on his thing. And of course, The Guardian says that it stokes Islamophobia, lunacy, whatever. But God bless that guy. So glad we have him as our Secretary of Defense.
I think we all are, and well said. And Golan, I just wanted to get that out of the way before we started the show, because we've, if we could do anything, even change a mind or two and make people understand before the propaganda machine is even in more full force than it already has been. I want to go, though, to...
There's one thing that everybody needs to keep in mind is that none of this would take place had Hamas not attacked on October 7th. And it could end today if they surrender and release the hostages. Period. End of story. There's no genocide in history where the people that are supposedly being genocided could have stopped it by releasing the hostages that they took. So that one line just exposes the fallacy of this entire thing.
Yeah, no, listen, you're 100% right. The problem is we're not dealing with honest brokers, and we're not dealing with people that could critically think. And we're getting people that get their information from clicks, from little clickbait things, or from podcasters that are obviously...
They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about, period.
No. Here's the thing. They do know, Golan, exactly what they're talking about. And the mixed direction and all the stuff they're talking about is absolutely purposeful.
100%, and it's not just them. Every one of these groups, and recently, one of the things I've been working on recently is uncovering stories about NGOs and the corruption within. I can't start revealing all sorts of stuff quite yet, but there are very, very prominent NGOs that now we got information about that shows exactly where their money is coming from and where their messaging is coming from. And look no further than the UN, one of the sources that all of these podcasters and everybody who knows exactly what they're doing is using. Right now, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I may as well jump into the Commission of Inquiry that just came out of the United Nations. Why is this significant? Because the Commission of Inquiry just announced that it's done. It is a fact. Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. Okay? It's the first time that they have said this actually happened. Now, besides the fact that this Commission of Inquiry has been implemented specifically just to find Israel guilty of whatever it is they want to find Israel guilty of. The legal analysis of this inquiry is flawed from the top to the bottom. Even the information within the inquiry that eventually led to this conclusion literally begins. It begins by pointing out that on October 7th, 2023, some of you might know that date, October 7th, 2023, is when Hamas launched their genocidal attack against Israel. But that's not what the inquiry says. It says on October 7th, 2023, Israel launched its military offensive in Gaza, which included airstrikes and ground operations. That's how it begins. So right away, we see 10/7 erased. The entire incident presented as an Israeli attack, and the reader, who doesn't know any better, will not know what happened. Hamas is not mentioned. It is erased completely. They don't exist anywhere in the report. And 8 pages deep, they're mentioned and only in the context of Israeli statements. That is the beginning of it. And then it goes further and further. There's no mention of hostages. There's no mention of any of the events that occurred that eventually led to Israel starting a defense or initiating a defensive war against the enemy that started a war against them. The Orwellian report that goes into this detail can be debunked from the top to the bottom. And this is a perfect example of them knowing exactly what they're doing and doing it deliberately solely to attack the only Jewish state on the planet.
Well said, and frightening, but well said. Yeah,
I
I
haven't,
am.
by the way, if I went into the details of it, your toes would curl.
Well, thank you for making my toes not curl today. It's greatly appreciated because I think there are a lot of stories out there that would have quite the same effect. This Mangione story in New York, where they dropped the terrorism charge, they dropped the top charges against him in New York, and now they're going for second-degree murder. And I have no idea my wildest dreams. I've always thought, go on from watching, or men from watching any show on TV, if you plan a murder, that's first degree homicide. And this is one of those cases where I wish Pam Bondi, because she can, take over the case. They could try this case federally. And I think they should right now try this case federally and get it out of that cesspool that is New York City, because you have people outside the courthouses obviously screaming and cheering for Luigi. Every single one of these people, Golan, should have their pictures taken. They should be videotaped, recorded. Every single person outside that courthouse does not deserve a free pass right now.
Yeah, I, I frankly don't even know what to say about removing a terrorist charge. There's a specific statute. It has to do with shock value. It has to do with trying to strike fear into people. That's the whole idea, right? Intimidate or coerce a civilian population. And in this case, it would be to influence, let's say, government policy. So the judge said his ideological animus just doesn't cut it. It's not enough. But as if we don't have actual diary entries, anti-insurance statements, motive, and all the way through down the line, in order to blur the definition of terrorism in this case, you have to squint your eyes so hard you're basically shutting them. It's not as if he just hated insurance companies and thought, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about it. He did this deliberately in order to make a statement and try and change policy. That's literally the textbook definition of it.
Here's a good rule for life, men. If you have a manifesto and you end up shooting somebody, you are a terrorist, okay? Most people do not just carry around manifestos in their back pocket and spread it online.
The Luigi thing, one is it's the judge who threw out the charge of terrorism, and this clearly was an act of terrorism. So I'm no legal scholar. I don't know what the intricate details of this one were, but I assume that the prosecutors and prosecution office, the DA's office, will try to make some adjustments to have this stick. Or, as you said, the federal law enforcement could step in. They violated the United Healthcare CEO's civil rights by taking his life. There are ways for the feds to step in. But I was curious as to why he wasn't charged with first-degree murder. They charged him with terrorism and second-degree murder, which really didn't make any sense.
I can tell you that, so New York is not like federal law, okay? So the idea of premeditation, the idea of planning everything from scratch, it is first-degree murder. Okay, federally speaking, it's first-degree murder, and in most states, it's first-degree murder. It's a New York-specific thing. First-degree murder has two definitions. It has two breakdowns. Okay, so it requires either killing a police officer, a judge, or a witness, or someone who fits into a very specific kind of category, or it has to do with multiple victims or murder for hire, or if you have prior convictions, things like that. I think that's it. I think that's the way they narrowly define it in New York. So that's why they elevated it to terrorism. But the terrorism thing, I don't fully understand. So, Mend, if you have insight into this, I would love to hear it, because the excuse given is you only targeted one person and therefore it's not terrorism, even if targeting that one person was done deliberately to try to make an entire group of people afraid, which to me is the definition of terrorism. So I don't get this one at all.
So the judge said that the terrorism, it just didn't fit the bill. He rejected the argument, stating there's no evidence to terrorize the public, inspire widespread fear, or engage in a broader campaign of violence to conspire with organized terrorist groups. The targeted and discrete killing of a single person did not fit the legal definition of terrorism set forth in New York State's anti-terrorism statute, which was passed after 9/11. The judge also ruled that the fear experienced by United Healthcare employees after the incident was not enough to justify the terrorism charge. So they couldn't do the first-degree murder, and he threw out terrorism.
How narrow is that to say, oh, it's only this one company that is worried? It's not. The idea of it's intimidation by murder designed to scare the living hell out of a broader target. Anyone, every executive, every worker, every policymaker within the healthcare system. And by the way, when everyone was celebrating Luigi Mangione, that's what they were celebrating. Hey, the healthcare
Yeah,
system.
that's exactly what both of you are saying is
Clearly,
exactly the
the
point.
judge got it wrong. He's
The
gotten
judge
it
got it
wrong.
wrong.
This is not.
It's New York City, New York State. I'm shocked that the judge got it wrong.
So after listening to Stephen Miller, he came on the Charlie Kirk show after Charlie was assassinated when Vice President J.D. Vance stepped in and did a full episode on behalf of Charlie Kirk. So he tried to fill the shoes for a day. And he brought on a lot of White House people, and one of them was Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller said that they are going after all of these left-wing terrorist groups, the apparatus, the people that fund them. They're going after it like a criminal enterprise. And this might be what Gene Hamilton was alluding to when he said there are people in really high up places that are looking into who funds this anti-American terrorism, which now has led to violence. So I'm glad they're doing it. Stephen Miller was not holding back at all. The guy's on fire, and let's see where this goes.
Here's the problem, Golan, again with the let's see where it goes is they should have, and I love Steven, but this should have been going on since day one. This shouldn't have taken 7 months.
Well, my point being, the point that I was trying to make is that in light of what Stephen Miller said, I could easily see Pam Bondi leveling federal civil rights charges against Luigi Mangione. Let New York do whatever they do. They could lock him up for 3 weeks, and then, they want to let him go. The feds will take him, and they're going to try him for violating that guy's civil rights, maybe even RICO, if they could tie it in with an organization that got this guy to radicalize and commit that crime. I have faith in this administration. They're doing a fantastic job. I wish they were working faster. I would love to see, we've talked about this again, love to see charges against Fauci and Comey and everyone else that was involved, as well as George Soros' RICO case against him and his entire organization. It looks like they're taking it seriously.
But again, go on. This isn't about looking to take it seriously. I get Stephen Miller's passion. I heard him sharing about this afterwards. And obviously it was about it. A lot of it had to do with his last message strand that he was with, talking to Charlie Kirk. But this is something that is really dangerously getting past the point where this should have been done. Listen, I have no issues. I've been railing against Republicans. And I don't care if I have to say Republicans have to get off their asses sometimes. And this is a huge thing that people often have said about Republicans. When they win, they don't know what to do. And this has always been a knock on them. And we're talking about the lowest of hanging fruit, Golan. It doesn't take that much to go investigate these organizations and see where the money's coming from.
Well, I think the investigation's already happening.
I'm talking about 7 months ago, man. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about
you don't know when it started. We don't know when it started.
You know what? Can I tell you something? This is what drives me crazy. When people say this to me, you don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. When Democrats go after everybody, we know exactly what's going on because they do it in front of open doors. And yes, they get their person. If Kamala had won, there would have been 40 indictments lined up on day one against Republicans across the country. There would have been news sites shut down. We know that they were going after Charlie Kirk's group. We know that this is what they were doing, Golan, and Republicans have to stop with this. They have to cut this crap out.
I think what it is, Mend, is not that we're not seeing her say we're working on it, or when I say her, I mean Pam Bondi or the DOJ or whoever it might be. It's not that we don't think they're working on it or they're not telling us we're working on it. We're not seeing results. I'm not saying indictments. I'm not saying perp walks. I'm not saying that's what we're waiting for, because that sometimes can take time. That really can. I have seen investigations that sometimes take months, sometimes take years. So I'm not saying, why have I not seen all the receipts immediately? But at least give us updates. Let us know. There was at one point Judah had mentioned weekly briefings, or at least some kind of clear update. These vague statements and these excuses, they don't feel like justice. They feel like PR, and that is what makes us nervous. Because
you know what I would rather have?
What's that?
I'd rather have indictments than updates. Take
Yeah,
your time.
but
Take
okay,
another 2 weeks. Do
yeah,
what you need to do,
Mend,
and then
you
get
are
these
not
And then
guys.
2
indicative.
weeks
You are
becomes
not
2 months.
indicative of the majority of the people who are waiting to see results. You, a patient man, and I appreciate you for it. It's probably because you do so much yoga. But most people don't know what's going on. What they see is it's been months and months and months and months, and nothing is happening, and nothing is happening. And maybe in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, when administrations have changed, suddenly someone's going to go to jail and no one's going to remember what you're talking about.
And I'm trying to figure
Let
this
me
out,
get let me
though.
give you
Man,
lem
yesterday at the end of the show, you said 2 things. You wished 2 things. One of them was that the administration would move quicker. That's what we're talking
I
about
agree.
here against. So you're sort of going against exactly what you're saying.
No,
We need.
I want them to move quicker, and I want them to do less platitudes and less talking about it. You remember when,
That's what you're. So
Tulsi
you're
That's
Gabbard
exactly what we're saying.
That's exactly what we're saying.
when Tulsi came out and said there was a conspiracy by Obama and Comey and Clapper and all those guys, and it was what'd she say, seditious? I believe she said it was a seditious conspiracy, and then nothing. I'd rather she'd not have made that statement, not have come out and made this big grandiose statement, which leads nowhere. Like, I'd rather you shut up, you sit in your office, do the hard work, put together the case, and then let us know when there's an indictment. Let us know when you actually have something. Don't come to us with little scraps of meat that you're throwing to your base saying, oh, we found this.
Yeah,
I don't want that.
I'm gonna call a little BS here, man, because
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Let's just use the Epstein thing as an example. You were vehemently looking for Epstein information, right? You wanted Epstein, you wanted people to come down, you wanted the
But it's
results.
different with Epstein.
But why is it different? It's the same thing. Because what if they were doing that behind closed doors and they didn't say anything? And then they say, okay, we did our investigation. You have no idea what happened during the investigation. You don't know any details that went along the way.
Which
and then
is what
suddenly
they did
said,
say.
which is what they
Right.
said. And they
So
came out
here
and
are
they
the
said, hey, guess what? We found out this, that, and the other thing. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. This is all BS. And now I want to
Here's-
flip over tables.
Here's the difference. Okay, a couple of things. One is the Epstein case fiasco has been going on for 2 decades? I mean, it's been going on for a really long time. And it finally came out when he killed himself that there were all these connections to all the powerful people that were flying to his island and all that other stuff.
No, we knew that years before.
Yeah, I was going to say that didn't come out.
But I don't know. I became aware. Maybe
I'm
that
saying
was just
that was
me.
that
Maybe I
was
didn't.
years before.
And with the Epstein thing is the suspicion that, or not the suspicion, there is an allegation that it was only him and possibly no one else involved, which personally I don't believe. But if that is the case, I said be transparent and let us know what you find as you find it, because it looks like this is getting swept under the rug and we don't want that appearance to be happening. With this case over here, there's absolute evidence. We know what these people did. We know that they conspired. They made up the Russiagate thing. You don't need to give us updates saying that there may be something here. We already know there's something here. Now we want indictments. We don't want updates.
You're
want
repeating
indictments.
exactly what I'm saying.
But the Epstein thing, I don't want indictments on the Epstein thing. The Epstein thing, I've always said,
I'm not talking about
I
the
want
Epstein
indictments if you catch people that are guilty. And in this case, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we already know these people are guilty. Give us the indictments. What's taking so long on that?
Go on. Did I say something differently than him? I'm just curious at this point.
No, but that's the point, though, is that, look, right now, man, you just said, well, that was going on for years and years and years. So what if investigations go on for years and years and years? And they're not going to tell you. There's the layers of bureaucracy that are involved with the FBI and the DOJ and Treasury and DHS. They all have their own lawyers, their own protocols, their own boxes to check. Nothing moves in a straight line in any of those places. And often they have to go through all of those places. Building an ironclad case does not take a second. If they're going to build a case, when they indict, they want a conviction rate that's going to be north of 90%. That means months, years, gathering evidence, flipping witnesses, running surveillance, tying every single knot so airtight a defense attorney can't wiggle out of it. So if you're asking for all of that, I'm not even getting into legal hurdles and politics in the background and grand juries and the sheer scale of things. And the list could go on and on and on and on. So if you're looking for all of those things and you expect no updates because I don't want to hear what your updates are. I just want to hear when it's done. And then along the way, conspiracies are building. Everyone's saying, are they even working on this? What's going on? You were one of the people saying, are they even doing this stuff? I think that you are, I appreciate your righteous indignation on this, but I think that you're not remembering your own statements. You wanted updates. We're not saying platitudes, and we're not saying we're gonna go after these people and call them guilty. Say, we have a case that we are going to investigate. Watch the beginning of Law and Order. Here's the case. Now we'll investigate. We have no idea what's going to happen. We're going to begin this investigation and we'll give you updates along the way. Hey, it's been 3 months. We've found something. We haven't found something. Here's the update. We're going to continue operating. And then they go. And now, hey, I'm sanguine about it. Why? Because I know what's going on, as opposed to
What would
sitting
be
in the dark.
wrong if they came out and said, you know what, we're investigating Antifa right now. We're looking into
Nothing wrong with that.
we're looking into where the money's
I
coming
think Stephen
from.
Miller
And
actually said
nothing
those
may
things.
come of it. And
Right.
nothing may come of it. But we are investigating.
That's where it gets me.
But my point
that's
is,
where it
that's
gets
the
me.
answer in
But
every
men,
investigation.
Men, my point is 7 months ago, we knew Antifa, which should be called a terrorist organization, was acting. We know they've been acting for the past 4 years. And just so I want to finish this up, is just so you know, Epstein's investigation was dropped by the Biden regime and Bill Barr before him. John Bolton, the investigation was dropped by the Biden administration that Trump was going after him. So these were investigations that were dropped that needed to be re-picked up. And when you re-pick up an investigation, you have to gather. In Bolton's case, it's really bizarre since, well, he has a book admitting his guilt.
See, again, that's what I'm getting to, is that some of these cases, like the Epstein case, that could be very labor intensive.
Yeah.
You got to go through. The only way you're going to get the Epstein pedophiles, if there were pedophiles with him, would be if they have the tapes from his island and they could identify the people who are abusing the girls. Like, that's it. And we all suspect that that was his whole scheme. He would blackmail people with videos. He'd bring them there with underage girls. And then he'd say, look, I'm going to tell your wife and I'm going to tell your company and you're going to be out of business unless you let me manage $100 billion for you or whatever.
I don't know how we got back into the Epstein thing.
Well, I will just say
But
this about
anyway.
any case. Wait, about any case, because Judah brings up something that's unbelievably important. If something is dropped by an administration and the next administration comes in and decides to pick that case up, it's not that they continue where they started. If a case is shelved, evidence goes stale. Witnesses scatter. Investigators move on to other assignments. This is natural and it's normal. Picking a case back up after it's been dropped usually means starting from scratch.
Yeah,
It
you
means
guys are making my
re-interviewing
case for me.
people.
No,
But,
it's
no.
absolutely
We're
absolutely
doing the
actually
opposite. Because
it's
imagine right
it's
now,
the opposite. Yeah.
not saying anything to anybody, and you're going, why is it taking so long? And what if you gave a press conference and you said, this was dropped by the Biden administration? We have to begin this all over again. So we are going to re-interview, re-subpoena, recollect evidence that wasn't preserved. So this will take a while, but be aware that we are doing an investigation. Thank you, everybody. And then you go about your day. And now everyone's aware. Hey, it's happening. And you know what? It sounds like it might take a minute. What's
And that's
the
for the
problem?
Epstein thing. You're talking about the Epstein
That's
thing
for
on that one.
anything.
But
Because
no,
if there are
not this
legal
stuff. This stuff
complications,
was
if
not
there's institutional hesitation, if there's weird public optics, anything you need to combat, it's good to
Obama,
say it out loud.
Hillary, Comey, Clapper, like all of those guys, Brennan.
Do you ever read any of my posts?
None of those were.
Do you?
None of those were ongoing investigations. Of course I do. I read all your posts.
Right. So this is exactly what I keep on repeating in my posts. Okay, is that we literally have video evidence in front of us. We have written evidence in front of us. And this is driving me insane, and it's driving other people in the Conservative Party or the MAGA movement insane that we are not going after these people immediately. Absolutely. I don't know what more proof.
So I think we're all saying the same thing. I want indictments against the people that ran the Russia hoax, against the people that funded all of these left-wing organizations that are destroying America. I want a RICO Act against the Soros family and the whatever other organizations were funded by these insane left-wing orgs that ran this stuff. I want to know who was dropping off pallets of bricks during Black Lives Matter rallies. Like all of that stuff. I want that. Now, the difference between the Epstein case.
Stop bringing up the Epstein case. He was just using the Epstein.
Yo, listen, I didn't bring it up. You guys brought it up.
No,
I was talking about this.
brought it up to simply
using
say.
it as
Don't
an
tell me to stop
example.
bringing it up. I'm just going to say that the difference between this and the Epstein case is that the Epstein case, there may or may not be evidence, and they need to find that and do that. Here, the evidence is all plainly obvious to see. Plus, they found the burn bags. They found all the evidence. Tulsi came out. Tulsi came out and made the statements. So where are the indictments?
It's wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong, man.
I'm wrong on which part?
You're wrong. Because, yes, we human beings know that the book is evidence, but that memoir isn't a confession. It isn't a legal document that can be waved in front of a judge with a gotcha. That's not the way
Which
it works.
memoir? Which one
I'm
are you
talking about
talking
John Bolton.
Okay.
You brought up John Bolton. Walking through classified conversations, policy debates, all of that from a legal standpoint isn't direct evidence. So
Bolton
there,
is like the bottom of the totem pole on my list. I
but I'm
want to go
using,
after
but
Comey and
you're
Clapper and all those
comparing,
guys.
but you're not understanding me. Forget, you know what? Let's do it this way. Case A, case B. Okay. Forget
Yes.
what it is. So you don't get confused about which case I'm talking about. Right now, it seems, what the hell's going on with this case A? This should be an open and shut case. Why don't you give me an update? Because then I'll understand why it's not an open and shut case. Case B looks like something that's been going on for decades, and it looks like everyone's guilty. How do we not have a thing? You know what? Why don't you give me an update? If you give me an update, then I understand what's going on. At least I'm aware of why it's taking so long, what the classification is, what the defense might be, all the rest.
And
And
I'll tell you where
then,
my no, and I'm
yeah,
sorry for cutting you off, and I'll
no,
tell
no,
you where
no,
my
that's fine.
hesitation comes from. I've gotten it from some people that are pretty well connected that all of those things are going nowhere. You're never going to see a conviction for that. And that is the biggest fear. And therefore, I don't want these platitudes. I don't want these stupid updates. I want indictments. Bring us the indictments,
Okay, again,
all them in front of a grand jury.
getting back to it. You're missing the point of what I originally said, which is exactly what you've been saying.
Great. We all agree.
I've been
Kumbaya.
saying, no, but you ended up disagreeing with everything I said that you said, which was this is something that should have been going on for the better part of 7 months. I don't
Well,
want to.
what I said was we don't know how long it's been going on. We don't know. That we don't know.
Right.
What I
Updates would
do
have
know is
solved
that we
that.
don't. That what we do know is we haven't seen any indictments yet,
Yes,
and that's a long time.
and that is a hell of a long time, considering we know the warp speed
Right.
in
So you
which
don't want
they.
updates either. You want indictments.
Yes,
Okay, great. Good for that.
Everybody wants indictments, but if we don't know what's going on or why the indictments aren't coming, wouldn't it be nice to have some information so we're not sitting here enraged that
Yes,
the indictments
yes.
haven't come yet?
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. But that's not what we're usually seeing with these updates. What we're seeing with these updates is like, it's a seditious conspiracy by this, that. You would think that there would be arrests as she's making that speech, as Tulsi's up there on the podium saying, and as I'm here, we are arresting those people and we are going to haul them before a grand jury and we are going to, like, right?
No,
Like if you
I
have
mean,
the
if
smoking
it was a
gun and
TV show, but they don't have any smoking guns or people would be in chains. That's
okay,
the whole point.
well, then that's what the press conference did. You know, she made it seem like we found all the evidence.
yes,
So-
and again,
Absolutely.
another.
and that's what I'm saying. Don't do that. That's what I'm saying. Don't do that. Don't get everybody's hopes up
That
and
I
then don't
agree
follow
with,
through.
but that's not the same as an update. Those people screwed up by making an I'm gonna go get this person, and then everyone's
There you
like,
go.
yeah, and then 8 months later,
What
nothing's
we're
happened.
simply saying is, when it comes in regards to Antifa, it would be nice if the Department of Justice came out and said, you know, we've had an open investigation into Antifa for the better part of 7 months. We are getting to the bottom of it. We are looking at the shell companies. This will take a little bit of time. And that's what people want to hear. Okay, because once you get into the bottom of all the shell companies involved with Antifa are going to take a while to get to. But we're simply saying there are a lot of cases out there that we would love to see them just say we have been or we are going to be investigating these groups, and this is exactly what we're doing, as opposed to the left who just comes out and indicts.
I love
Right?
that.
Yes.
Not that I love that they did it. I love it that we should be doing. The administration should be doing the exact same thing.
And that's
what
my
I've been saying
point. So I
throughout.
don't know what that's exactly what I started out with saying.
I love this. We're getting along. We all agree. So we agree that we want the indictments.
It took 15 minutes. It took 15 minutes for you to come around to a statement that you said yesterday that we're all agreeing with your statement from yesterday. Okay. And from the day before or from last month. We're all agreeing.
The main point that I'm trying to make, and this is really the root of it, is don't get people's hopes up with a whole bunch of very bold statements if you don't have the cards to follow it up. If you're holding bullshit in your hand, don't come out and tell us that you have a royal flush. And that's what it seems like they've been doing. So I'm trying to tamper everybody's expectations because even though we have the greatest administration in office today, it seems like they are not moving fast enough with the indictments. And I don't want to see some other person get up there and make another grandiose statement that winds up doing nothing. I want to see action. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, is less of these updates, more action.
Okay,
And if you don't have it, let us know why
you're
you don't
getting
have it.
confused with updates and what they've been doing. That's really where the confusion is. What
That
Golan
is
and
correct.
I are referring to as far as updates are this is what we are doing right now. This is in a month later. This is where we are at in the case. This is what the American.
But they already got away from that, because they came out and
They've not
Tulsi
done it,
came out
Mend. That's the whole
and
point. They've not done it. What they have done instead is these hyperbolic, hair on fire speeches about, we got him, we got him, we got him. Everyone got excited. And that's just nonsense. And we all agree that that was a massive mistake. What
yeah.
Tulsi did,
So I'm
while it
asking for
sounded
less of
cool,
that.
was a
I'm
massive
saying less
mistake.
of
What
that.
Bondi did was a massive mistake. None of those have been updates. Not one of them have been updates. That's the point. A measured, calm, detailed update of what's going on would actually quell 90% of the conspiracy theories, because people, I bet here's what, oh, that's what's happening. Oh, well,
Listen,
then my conspiracy
you
theory
know
goes
what's
out the
great what they're
window.
doing right now? Just to give a perfect example. So after Trump got shot in Butler, the assassination attempt in Butler, you didn't hear from the FBI, you didn't hear from the DOJ, you didn't hear from Secret Service, you didn't hear from anybody. You were hearing from the local yokel cops on a daily basis. And I kept on saying, "What? Where's Ray? Like, where is Ray right now?" And I know you hate Trump's guts, but this is sort of an important story. His assassination attempt with this guy who then 10 days later had his whole life scrubbed away from him. And, to juxtapose that to what's going on, thank God, with Charlie Kirk, we're getting minute to minute updates. They're actively updating everybody because they realize they do not want this to turn into some form of conspiracy. So we're getting the letter that he sent, or the messages that he sent to his boyfriend. We're getting those minute to minute updates of those messages. We're getting the update about this lunatic Zin or Zim, however you pronounce
Mm-hmm.
his name, who was at the scene and said, "I'm the person, don't shoot," right? And now he's being arrested for child porn. So, I mean,
Jeez.
yeah, not a joke. So he was literally obstruction that's why the chaos was caused. I'm sure many people have seen this by now, was because he said, "I'm not the guy, don't," or did he say, "I am the guy"? He said, "I'm not the
No,
guy, don't."
he said he shot Charlie. Now shoot me.
Yeah,
And
I
then
shot Charlie, shoot me. That's exactly right.
later said, I was just trying to let the real shooter get away.
Yeah.
Then
So,
it turned out he had a bunch of child porn on his phone.
but my bigger point being is that we're getting like I got to give the FBI, I got to give the Utah, who is it? The Utah governor, the Utah, whoever's
Governor of Utah
the
is doing a
governor of
great job.
Utah, thanking him for giving what those updates that we're all looking for. Want to move on though? Go on. Kash Patel today was great. Going against Adam Schiff, I thought he was fantastic. It was really dynamite material.
What Schiff was trying to do, Schiff was trying to, do basically what we were just talking about. He was trying to dredge up all the controversies, all the conspiracy theory stuff. He was trying to talk about the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. He was trying to bring up the prison transfer of Ghislaine Maxwell. He was trying to bring up all the firings at the FBI. He had all this stuff where he was just pressing Patel on how the agents were fired and the Mar-a-Lago assignments. And basically, Patel just kind of held his ground actually incredibly well. He said no one at the FBI is terminated for case assignments alone. He was talking about the not only the corruption, but a lot of the people that were within the organization not working towards the goal of the organization. And Schiff just kept trying to hammer these things, political retribution and all this stuff. And Patel was able to hold his own as all these accusations flew. And in the end, Patel called Schiff, I'm going to quote it, the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate, a disgrace to this institution, and an utter coward. And ultimately, Patel, I was waiting to see him kind of crumble, I have to admit, and he held his own in a way that was pretty concrete.
Yes, Amend, I encourage you. It's all over. It's online. You could
Yeah,
actually
I'm gonna
watch it.
watch that. It looks
Yeah.
amazing.
Watch this exchange because I have actually never seen somebody go at a senator and call him a fraud. And literally, this is something, an area of expertise that Kash Patel has on Adam Schiff. So, but another example of somebody that I bring up in the posts and all that stuff. So people go to Truth Me Social, sign up, and you'll know what I'm referring to, because it's like mortgage fraud, mortgage fraud, Letitia James. These are things they went after Trump what, they had him in court and a grand jury in 2 weeks, and they had the case a month later or whatever it was. These are things people really want to start seeing. So I encourage you heavily, and I know Kash Patel is under a lot of pressure right now in the FBI, and I don't want to sound like I'm defending him one way or the other. I think he's an extremely good man, and I think most of the people that are working there are extremely good people. That includes Pam Bondi. So I don't want to sound like we're attacking these people, because they are coming into organizations that have been rotten to their core for at least 20 to 25 years. And the job of them coming in is insane. When you have to look at Comey's daughter suing to get her job back at the DOJ. I mean, what a joke. Go to the private sector, you jackass. I mean, how could Comey's daughter be a member of the DOJ when he should be under arrest by the same DOJ? So a real conflict of interest.
I'm a big fan of Kash Patel. I read his book. He's
We're all
super,
fans of Kash.
super bright. I love this one line that he told Schiff where he said that, so Kash Patel said, it is my job to protect the weaponization of intelligence from the likes of you. That is so telling. It's so appropriate, because that is exactly what Adam Schiff and all of them did. They weaponized the FBI and the CIA and all of these three-letter organizations against the American people. If you listen to the Charlie Kirk show hosted by J.D. Vance, he had on Robert Kennedy Jr., and he talked about every single one of our constitutional rights that was eroded or violated by the previous administration. And he just goes down the list.
And
it's
not
incredible.
And again,
with examples.
not just the previous administration, but the Obama administration, guilty of this too. It really started to shift. Everybody has to remember. I blame Republicans too when it went against Clinton, and the whole thing with Clinton. I think a lot of people felt the same way after a certain amount of time, and this weaponization of the DOJ. And I know that might not. You know what? I actually think a lot of conservatives at this point sort of like Bill Clinton, minus all the shenanigans. Shall we say go
I didn't
on?
even care about the shenanigans.
I understand, but I'm saying a lot of this started. Obviously, you could go back to Nixon, but anyways, let's move on a little bit, because there are two things I want to get to quickly. So right now,
Can I ask you one question? I'm curious.
Yep.
It's a quick question. I'm really wondering. You guys were talking about this before. Do you really want the right to start launching half-baked cases the way the left did against Trump? I mean, would you really want that? Because we watched what they did, raid after raid, indictment after indictment, all that stuff. Every bombshell would fall apart in court, and it didn't deter them because they wanted to look like they were going after Trump. So nothing stopped them. Here, if we did that and these cases fall apart, think about the guys that, the people that we were trying to deport, these terrorists we were trying to deport, those cases fell apart. It just made Trump and the administration
the
look weak.
cases didn't
I'm
fall
wondering.
apart. The cases didn't fall apart. You had judges that came in that blocked the cases. This goes to the same
No,
thing.
I'm talking about the
refused to
cases
hear it.
against. I'm talking about the cases against Trump, the ones that they were launching arbitrarily over and over again, and those cases fell apart.
I'm going to answer you this question honestly. This will not stop until everybody realizes that there are consequences to these actions. Is this a place where I want to be in our time? No, but actually this is where I agree with Mend. In Trump's first term, when he tried to take the high road, it got him almost into prison. So the only way we could protect this not happening in the future is our attorney generals going after people, is for real cases. But go on.
That's what I mean. When the left thrives on lawfare, they don't care about losing cases. They care about the optics of dragging opponents through the mud, criminalizing them, and the court of public opinion and all of that. But if we can do the smarter move, if we can hit hard but clean, make the cases airtight, even if it's slow, you drop the hammer and the hammer actually sticks, then it's not just headlines, it's justice that lasts, and that seems like real consequences. I'm just reticent to start trying to play the dirty game.
I don't think I've brought up one name that I don't think is not guilty of something. So whether it's Comer,
That doesn't mean an airtight case.
Brennan, well, we have it in front of video about them lying. We have it actually on video.
Fauci lied to Congress to Rand Paul.
And that's a case for Congress, by the way. That's something for Congress.
They haven't done it yet.
Congress could actually imprison somebody like they did Peter Navarro, like they did Steve Bannon, which whatever. So go on. Yeah, I'm not looking for like frivolous type of stuff. I'm looking for stuff that actually we were lied to about. We had 51 intel agents lie to us about a laptop. We could never allow that to happen in the United States again. And the only way to protect from that ever happening again is that the people that did it have to face consequences. If they don't face the
That's it.
consequences, the swamp will always stick. And this is, if there's anything, we have to break apart the swamp. So does that answer your question?
It does. I appreciate it. I wasn't asking a pointed thing. I really wanted to know your opinions. Thank you.
That's my opinion on it, and it goes to what Men said when he's brought up on the show before about Trump taking the high road in the first administration. Look where it got us. But it's not just that. When we look at these people that have security clearance, that have really imposed dangers to our society by being on CNN, MSNBC, and spewing this hatred and this lying, that's got to stop. And Trump is a convicted felon, right? He's a convicted felon. I think it's important that these people be known as felons. I think it's important that James Comey leaking secrets to his BFF, there are repercussions for that because we're talking about security of America. I want to move on to one of the things that Israel brings to not just the UK, but America is their intelligence, is always trying to be ahead of intelligence. Now, the biggest thing that people misunderstood with October 7th was they can never understand with Israeli intelligence how this happened. Now, there are two forms of spreading information. So they got really wise, right? Like the mobsters who stopped using phones and would just hand pieces of paper and never be around recording devices. So in Gaza, it was hand-to-hand messaging. So there was no, almost impossible to get intel. The place I'm going with this is we're seeing them say today, we thought there was 20 people on that Discord chain. There could have been 30. There could have been 50 people on that Discord chain, man. Are we behind in the sense of our intelligence into these sites? Why are we always playing catch up is my point.
You're talking about the Charlie Kirk Assassins Discord
Yeah,
channel?
I'm talking about Discord. Why are we always playing catch up as far as our intel goes?
So, I read a book many, many years ago, maybe 25 years ago, and it talked about this supercomputer that the government was going to create. It was a fictional type book, but that sucked up all of the intelligence, all of this signal intelligence. So all the phone conversations, all the emails of the world, everybody's. And then they're going to have some sort of way of keyword searching, and anything that gets flagged, someone has to take a look at that conversation and figure out if this is benign or if this is a bad guy talking. And then it turned out later on that they actually had this. They built it and they were using it. And I believe under Obama it came out with the WikiLeaks guy and Snowden. I think he was one of the whistleblowers on that thing. They have data. They have a lot of data. Problem is that for the last 8 or 10 years, the people in these organizations have been brainwashed to the idea that the biggest threat to America is no longer Islamic terrorism. It's no longer these radical climate activists that have been wreaking havoc on societies for the last 50, 60 years. First, it was the ozone is going to kill us all, and then it's the rising sea levels, and then it's the freezing is coming, and then it's the heat is. They don't know what they're talking about. That's the bottom line. The people in the organizations, in the intelligence organizations, have been told that white males pose the biggest risk to America, white supremacy. So the focus has shifted. Just as in Gaza, the focus shifted. The Israelis were convinced that the Palestinians living in Gaza, or the Gazans that were in Gaza, were more interested in a better life for their families than they were in the destruction of Israel. So Israel changed its focus. They had excellent intelligence in Iran, a country that was 1,000 miles away. There they had fantastic intelligence. They were able to kill some of those generals as they slept in their bedroom, in their bed, with a hole through the wall. A missile came through a wall right into the guy's bedroom, didn't knock out the rest of the building. Like, they had precise intelligence, but it's all about your focus and where you're allocating your resources, and the overall idea or the overall focus of the agency and American intelligence agencies has been not doing its job at
I
the
think,
very
listen,
least.
I think the way you just summed it up, go on the way he just said it is 100% correct. Obviously, they've been going after the wrong people for the better part of 15 to 20 to maybe 40 years at
Yeah.
least. And, but my bigger question is we have to start getting ahead of this. We have to start when a new signal, starts, when a new Discord starts, we really have to get in there. This,
Well,
this,
you
this,
have to understand too that in these systems, they're weaponized simply and specifically because they're not designed for this sort of thing. The bad guys move faster than the rules do, right? So technology is moving forward. There's new apps, there's new platforms, new private chat rooms, all this stuff. And the laws, the moderators, the safety systems, they have to be designed. But nobody designs something for gamers and then says, what if an assassin confesses in here? So that safety tool doesn't exist. That's why, specifically, that's why they go there, because they know that it doesn't exist there. Just think of the sheer number of people in the chat room. We talked about it yesterday. Just thousands of people playing these games. It's easier for people to communicate. They can share any ideas. They can egg each other on. They can get radical. All of that, and no one's watching. And so it's like finding one bad text in a sea of billions. So now, of course, they will ramp this up. They will start using AI. They will take violent threats seriously in real time. They're going to share red flag data with law enforcement immediately. All of that's going to happen. But then there's going to be something else that no one suspects. It'll be something for kids. And suddenly you'll see a bunch of terrorists and YouTube kids having conversations in the chat. Like you never know what it's going to be. It's going to be something that isn't designed for that. Years ago, I learned that every technical innovation that went into the film industry started in the porn industry. Okay. Why? Because it's the place where they can do whatever the hell they want. They were like, let's do POV shots. Let's do this. Let's do, VR, all of this stuff is all stuff that was designed so people can, get busy by themselves on the internet. And then eventually they were like, oh, actually, I could put that into Avatar. And then it shifted over and became legit. It's the same thing here. It's the same thing. They're using all of these platforms specifically because there is nothing that is being done to hold big tech accountable for those parts of it in order for censorship not to be an issue and all of that. We're just playing catch up. And at the end of the day, there's going to be yet another platform, yet another server, yet another system, and we will not get ahead of that one. And the extremists will have another place to play until we get to that one. This is going to continue happening.
Well said. And this is the last thing quickly. I wasn't aware of this, but anyway, last week it was interesting. Carlson was at the All In Summit and they were all kissing his ass. And, obviously they didn't bring up any of the guests that were on his show and all this stuff. And I found it very interesting because he had said something to the effect of, he had said something to the effect of, or he had said this the other day, something to the effect of with Charlie Kirk being pressured, and then all of a sudden it became that certain donors pressured him, and we all know what he was implying by certain donors pressuring him in regards to Israel. And now you have Candace Owens coming out after the person that supposedly which is Bill Ackman, and everything comes back to Israel with these people. Everything comes back to the Jews. So Qatar has put into our society at least $100 billion, okay, into campuses, into universities, into every single part of our life. Qatar has not in going. I don't think the word is investment. Okay, I think the word is indoctrinate. I think the word is bribery.
I
Okay,
was
so
going to say
stop getting
bribery is the one.
everything back to, and that's reported money, by the way, because there's a lot of money that's not reported of what they've given. So you can't even quantify that, and you can't and forget about all the billions they've spent in terrorist activities. So I am very so this is Bill Ackman's got to reply to Candace Owens, this lunatic. And is this really where we are right now? Is this it? Is like some
I think we are in a place now where, for better or for worse, well, it's definitely for worse. There's no question about that. There are a bunch of lunatics and racists and anti-Semites and people who are paid off by foreign entities and all the rest that are online spouting stuff that is just there to cause chaos, to bring down the West. And each time it happens, there are enough fools or fellow racists or fellow bigots or fellow whatever you want to call them that are willing to listen and follow and believe that at this point, if we just let things simmer, then they simmer and they become a boil that can't be stopped. So at this point, yeah, as messed up as it sounds, we have to respond, at least for the time being, to these lunatics, no matter how crazy their conspiracy theories are. I hope eventually these people just get dismissed, like Alex Jones used to, when he would go off and rant, and people would go, okay, and then they would just move on instead of
I
having
think
to
the
be like,
best
well,
thing
let's
that happened
break
last
down.
week, the
Yeah.
best thing the funniest thing that the funniest week was after Dan Bilzerian, that nut job, was like blaming this whole thing on Israel, like Candace Owens, and Alex Jones went after Dan Bilzerian, and it was one of the funniest X's. He's like, he's like, yeah, it's Israel, and you're an Israeli asset, and I just found it to be absolutely hysterical, and not hysterical, but sad. And man, what we're watching right now is, you know what I've realized what podcasts have become. And listen, this is not who we are. We're not this. We're just not these people. It's one big X, okay? It's like there's no original thought or content in these podcasts that people are listening to and watching. It's like a comment, then it's like a continuous stream of comments underneath it. They might as well not call them podcasts, just X bait.
You know, I have no problem with any commenter, commentator, podcaster not supporting Israel. But when you flip it, when you do not take into account the amount of money that Qatar is investing or bribing or spewing into the US for influence, and you keep on talking about APAC or CPAC or any of them, anything else that you're talking about while ignoring the biggest elephant in the room, China, Qatar, these are countries that pour ridiculous amounts, way more than any Israeli lobbying group. And the Israel lobbying group is not even Israel, it's
Way more than their
Americans.
GDP. Just to put it in perspective, more than their GDP.
Right. These are Americans that donate to this group because they believe that it aligns with their beliefs. So you're seeing the hypocrisy, especially with guys like Tucker. Candace, I don't even need to say it. She's off her rocker. She's
But it's not a
completely
matter
left
of
the
her being off
reservation.
her rocker. Bill Ackman now has to come in, and the story that was reported that at a Hamptons event, Bill Ackman put pressure onto Charlie Kirk and so on and so forth. And Bill Ackman's like, I've met him a few times. We were on a Zoom call, and Charlie was so disheartened by the fact that a lot of the youth movement was not favoring Israel. And that was exactly what the phone call was. She accused him of blackmailing Charlie Kirk. That's
But you
exactly
know
what.
what though? You said this is like X, right? But it's not. It's like TikTok because what you're
Sorry.
seeing is no. The reason why I think it's like TikTok is to use that Bin Laden story again. They paid one influencer to praise Bin Laden, and they saw how many millions of likes that person got on TikTok, and then the other influencers who didn't even know who Bin Laden was and certainly didn't care and certainly didn't believe what they were about to say were like, I want millions of likes. So then they repeated it. And then everyone started repeating it simply because it was the hot take. And hot take culture used to be confined to 280 characters online. Now it's a 2 hour conversation where everyone nods to each other and repeats the same thing over and over again. And
Okay,
that's
so
the
it's so
thing.
it's
It's the whole media landscape has collapsed into one rant where it's just the same topics, the same like 6 topics, the same dopamine hits, everyone saying the same thing over and over again because they know it's going to get them likes and followers.
thank you very much for that. And I just want to say that the craziest thing of the week to me has been the fact that I mean, I must have brought up the bombing in Utah, which was 40 miles away from where Charlie Kirk got assassinated, to 10 people that did not know the story. That the story that went unreported for 3 days. I even went on the World According to Ben Stein podcast last night. Nobody heard of this story. Literally, people
It
that
was your
are I'm
title
not just
last night.
referring to. It was exactly my title last night because I was like, what is going on? And I want to thank David again on True Social for bringing and for highlighting that to me. And I will say this, I will feel extremely intellectually dishonest if I don't say this. JD Vance did the Charlie Kirk show yesterday. Grateful that he did it. The fact that he had Tucker Carlson on is an absolute disgrace. He should never have had him on. And yes, I do not believe Tucker Carlson's son should be working for JD Vance. There is a sick, twisted connection there that I am extremely not happy about. And if that offends people, I don't really care. I have to be intellectually honest. And just like I said to my friends yesterday, that are in Hollywood, that if you are in any way associated with this chick that was the Free Palestine, her mother is Lorraine Newman, right, from Saturday Night Live. I was not made familiar with that. Somebody told me that this morning. So I have to be consistent. And even if that means losing listeners, I'm okay with that. But I am not okay with J.D. Vance platforming Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Tucker is clearly problematic. The one thing that
It's a good word.
he talked about Charlie Kirk was that he learned from Charlie how to disagree with people without hating them. And he said, even on super hot topic issues, ones where both people are very, very passionate about, like foreign policy. So
Tucker is a
clearly
liar.
he was
What
alluding
do we
to,
care about what he's talking about?
well,
What
he
do
was
we care about what
alluding
he
to,
said? He's a liar. Everything he
he was
says is a lie. You can see video one that he says something else, and video two.
no,
He talks
I'm
out
not,
of both sides of his mouth so much he's talking out of his ass on a regular basis.
he was alluding to the fact that Charlie Kirk was a staunch supporter of Israel, and he obviously has changed and is no longer that.
Tucker.
Tucker has become an anti-Israel advocate. So you hear it, you see it, that he kept his head in the right place. He did not sever the relationship with Tucker, and he said he wasn't going to. He did say that he was under pressure to sever that relationship, and he said he was not going to. I respect Charlie. I don't respect Tucker. I think Tucker has really gone off the reservation. That said, listen, Charlie was able to do his thing, and hopefully JD will take a page from Charlie's book and disagree with Tucker on these ridiculous foreign policy takes that Tucker has been spewing. According to Tucker, we should be in the midst of World War III right now with 10 million Americans dead. That was his prediction. None of that came true. So Tucker is not just a liar. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
We
Oh,
could
he knows
literally
exactly what he's
better.
talking about. He's being paid to say those things, and
Yeah,
I don't
he is.
want anyone to disagree with him. I want him not to be present. I want him not to be in the halls of power.
That's exactly
I want
right.
him to. Again, we're not talking about deplatforming, but I don't need the vice president of the United States to platform him. That is an issue, and I don't care if he disagrees with him while he's doing it. He shouldn't be there.
That's exactly right. And again, I will say this about his son. I do not think his son should
Agreed.
be working for J.D. Vance. And I know some people might disagree with me on that. I don't really care.
Yeah, it is my hope that Tucker fades into oblivion.
He's not. And
especially with these.
He's certainly going to fade into oblivion when the vice president brings him on a Charlie Kirk show at one of the points when it's going to be at its highest ratings ever.
You're right, man. You know what? I thought it was headed there too. I really did. And then when you brought up before the show, because I had no idea and I didn't want to bypass it because I don't want to be dishonest. I just do not want to be a dishonest broker. So I'm really glad you brought that up. I appreciate that.
There is one thing that I did want to bring up before we close out. Recent YouGov poll, and this is really what's the biggest danger to America today. A recent YouGov poll showed that 3% of Republicans view political violence as being acceptable. Liberal Americans, that number is 25%. So they're 8 times more likely to say that political violence is justified. And that gets to the root of everything that is wrong with America today. It is the left that is okay with these things that are undemocratic, that are a threat to our way of life.
Thank you for that one more thing. You're 100% correct. I'm happy you brought that up.
Scary.
And again, we're not lawyers. We're just people that are curious, and we're not curious ever on the rumor. We're curious once the story comes out and has been vetted. And I like to follow my friend's 72-hour rule, which is wait for the story to actually come out. And so we hope we do that. And, I enjoy the back and forth. I think it's extremely important, even though Mend is completely out of his mind today. And I want to thank everybody that's been following the show and downloading the show. I want to thank people like Dave and El Turbo and the Demon and Mike Truth on Truth Social and El Ray and whoever I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. But I want to thank you all for the constant love that you show us, and for everybody that gives us those 5-star reviews from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. You can find us everywhere at thedailycheatsheet.com. That's thedailycheatsheet.com. Want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.